Hello my friends and welcome. Let's go to the latest update from Ukraine. According to the recent information coming from the Russian resources, and partially it's been confirmed by some of the rumors from Ukrainian resources, Ukraine is getting ready for the assault on Crimea. The big landing operation is coming. It's quite logical, and let me tell you why do I think that it's the next step in this war. The first reason lies with the current counteroffensive operation performed by Ukrainian army on the southern part of Ukraine, plus in the Bakhmut area. Honestly speaking, for the last week there are no any significant updates in the counteroffensive performed by Ukraine. The last greatest achievement for Ukraine was to liberate Andriivka and Klishivka villages, which are quite important near to the Bakhmut city. But again, Russia built the significant defense lines after the Bakhmut on the eastern side. So basically, there is no perspective for Ukraine to assault towards this place in the nearby future with the current resources. On the south, we see just the single direction where Ukrainian army is successful. It's near to Verbovo and Robotine, but still it's a very slow movement. Some say that the counteroffensive of Ukraine has stalled. Hopefully it's not like that, because our guys were successful in penetrating the Russian defense lines, the Surovikin line, and further the advancement might be faster. But what is happening right now is the political crisis in the United States of America. For example, the new military help for Ukraine was not included in the recent budget that was emergently taken by the Senate. Clearly, there is a certain division in the United States politics. I'm not gonna discuss it right now, but we're gonna discuss the next events that might happen because of it on the front lines and about this big landing operation in Crimea, as I think that it could be. It's not my idea, my friends. I took it from the internet, from many Russian resources and many Ukrainians, as I say to you. So Ukraine needs to show something to our allies that we are successful. The counteroffensive moves slower to avoid the heavy losses. So from the military perspective it goes well, but politicians are not agree with that. And to get more military help, we need to show the results right here, right now, unfortunately. We were speaking about it during the NATO summit in Vilnius. Basically, it was the open information from our allies that many of them wanted the results. The White House administration has been pushed by some of the senators to show the results, where the weapon is going to, why it's not performing so well as expected before. What is really the view of the White House on the victory of Ukraine? Because of that, the Crimean Peninsula could be the perfect spot to show the advantage of Ukrainian army. Yes, it is the place with many of the Russian military bases, with lots of the military logistics, etc. But Ukraine has all of the chances to land in Crimea and take at least one city, important city, under control. It may not change the general strategy of the war, but it may show to our allies that Ukraine is quite powerful in the new achievements and it needs more weaponry right here, right now. Plus, we already know that the landing operations in Crimea have already been conducted by the special forces of Ukraine. 3 rubber boats full of soldiers successfully landed somewhere over here. So it is not impossible. With adequate resources and forces, our guys may capture easily some of the Russian military base, for example in Saki, together with a local town. They will not go to Sevastopol, it's too big city, you need lots of the soldiers to take the city under control, but that try, I believe, will happen very soon. Speaking about the defense of the Crimea, as I say to you, many of the Russian military bases, but speaking about the defense lines themselves, there are not many. This is the typical Russian defense of Crimea. Yes, sometimes they also have some of the trenches just at the beach, but those are much less effective compared to the front lines. So the main issue for the Ukrainian landing operation are not the defense lines, but the Russian aviation and the Black Sea Marine Fleet. As we know, Russia evacuated the majority of the ships from Sevastopol. They usually stay on the south somewhere over here, or move to Novorossiysk, or Feodosia, where where the bay is more secured. So the Russian Black Sea Navy is not that effective as it was before, plus many of the Russian airfields are under constant attacks by the drones or the cruise missiles which Ukraine launches on the Crimean Peninsula. The first step for Ukraine was to cut the air defense. Many of the S-400 air defense systems were kaput, the raiders. Now the Ukrainian army is working with the Russian Black Sea Marine Fleet quite successfully. The next step will be to target the Russian military airfields with their aviation. And after that, Ukraine might perform the landing operation in Crimea. Whether it will be successful or not, I'm not sure. Again, it will not be the liberation of Crimea or something like that, but Ukraine may take at least one or maximum two cities under control. Partially, Ukraine has already confirmed those plans. Some of the Ukrainian officials, including Davydov, were speaking about those kind of the scenarios. Also now Ukraine sends more reinforcements to Kherson Oblast, somewhere over here. The landing operations were trained by Ukrainian army recently with the help of the British instructors. By the way, yesterday we got the news that Britain will send the instructors to Ukraine for the training of the special missions, but today Rishi Sunak disapproved this message, saying that Britain will send instructors after the war ends. My opinion that the previous statement wasn't done by mistake. So Britain will send their instructors to Ukraine. They will not wait till the end of this war. But this mission should be quite secret, and someone spread this information earlier than it should be. Plus, Ukraine controls the special oil and gas platforms located somewhere near to Crimea. Those could be the intermediate bridgeheads on the way to Crimea. So all of the steps are showing the future battle for Crimea with a big landing operation. In the best case for the successful mission, Ukraine should cut the main artery for Russian supplies to Crimea in Kerch, the Kerch Bridge. After it, the massive drone and missile strike on the Russian military airfields, and Ukraine may proceed somewhere over here to the western side of Crimea, because basically it's more closer to Ukrainian territory. So if that happens, Russia would have to send their forces from the front lines to Crimea, but Ukraine may also cut the supplies in Chergar Bridge as we did already before. It was just the test of the missile's capability. So the only supply line for Russia could be over here because there are no any bridges. But if they move all of the forces to the single tiny little place, they could be vulnerable. Let's speak about the potential dates for this landing operation. It could be in November or after the winter. Honestly, I think that it should be sooner than winter because Ukraine again needs to show something to allies right now to get more weaponry to the army. So November fits perfectly into this scenario. The last year during the November months, Ukraine liberated quite a lot of the territory. So the weather is still acceptable, especially in Crimea. I believe that this landing operation will be conducted during the night time. Again, my friends, I am not sharing any kind of the secrets. This is the information that is now spread in many of the Russian channels, including Ukrainian channels, so people start to think about it. You may not find it in official media resources, but it is quite logical. We are out of the real information, but we, with you, think about the future possible scenarios. We have already discussed with you the main vector for the Ukrainian counterattack. As many of the experts, we agreed that it will be towards Melitopol, and it happened like that. So now I'm saying that relatively big landing operation is going to happen in Crimea in the nearby future. We'll see whether I'm right or wrong. I give like 80% that this operation will be conducted. But the outcome of it is unpredicted, whether Ukraine will take a couple of cities or may have potential to go further to Crimean Peninsula. Crimea is the transit hub for the Russian Federation, so they do not keep lots of the soldiers over there who are capable to fight on the front lines. All of them are going over here to the southern part of Ukraine, but here potentially there is no huge resistance. plus the part of the local population who support the Russian Federation and those Russians who moved to Crimea are basically unarmed. They do not have the territorial defense, mostly consists from the local people who got rifles from the government, like you may find in Ukraine or in the self-proclaimed republics of LPR and DPR. So there will be no any active resistance from the pro-Putin population of Crimea. Well, we'll see how it goes. I just told you the marks and signs that I see and the general idea of what might happen in the future. Russia thinks that the scenario with Crimea is quite realistic, so they begin to build those Dragon T's in Crimea. For example, those defense lines were found in Feodosia, where the Russian ships are now based. Also today there was the Kaboom in Jankoy, the main hub for the Russian military supplies. One more Kaboom happened in Sochi. I was surprised to see this image. This is the video showing the Bayraktar TB2. I know this aircraft, the silhouette of it. I give 99% that it is the Bayraktar TB2, but it was spotted really far away from the Ukrainian border. What it did in Adler Sochi airport, that it showed the helicopter pad over there. We are out of the information so far of what kind of the helicopter or helicopters were parked on this helicopter pad. The question is how it's even possible to launch the Bayraktar drone that far. It is not the kamikaze drone but the attacking vehicle, so it should also return back. Really strange, but maybe Ukrainian army tests the new Bayraktar capabilities. Before, the maximum range of the Bayraktar TB2 was around 300 kilometers between the command centers, so now it could have been increased for the long-range missions. The new satellite images show that Russia soon will be ready to repair the Kerch Bridge fully. The section has been removed and the new ones were delivered already, so soon Russia will repair this road. Speaking about the strategy of this war in general from the Russian side, they prepare for the long-term conflict. According to the report from the British intelligence, Russia is going to spend around 30% from their total government budget for the war till 2025. Unfortunately, still Russia may afford it, because it has the commercial and economic allies, plus the price for the oil is not that low. Sometimes Russia is capable to sell their oil even higher than the limit that was set by the G7 countries. At the same time, the land lease for Ukraine is over. Actually, none of the weaponry was supplied according to this law to Ukraine. The law was valid till 30th of September 2023, so the new land lease should be taken by America to provide weaponry for Ukraine in that way, but that way was never used actually. All of the weaponry went through the other way, through the voting in Senate, through Pentagon, so basically Lend-Lease has never worked. You probably know that in the new budget of the United States of America for the next 47 days there is no military help for Ukraine, but actually it's not right, because the military help that was voted before still hasn't been used. We're speaking about $7 billion in total. Nearly $3 billion that are still available for this year, plus $4.5 billion that Ukraine haven't used in 2022. So I guess that it is quite enough till the full budget for 2024 will be taken by the Senate. It's been 40 days since Putin got rid of Prigozhin. Now we understand that the son of Prigozhin, Pavel Prigozhin, who was also the part of the Wagner, took the responsibility in ruling the unit. According to the Wagner official resources, Pavel Prigozhin is working now with the Russian Defense Ministry to deploy the remaining of the Wagner soldiers in Ukraine again. As it is expected, there is no any kind of the opposition from Pavel Prigozhin towards Putin and the Russian Defense Ministry. Probably the Wagner PMC will continue to carry its name, but will be quite restricted by the Russian regular army. I'm sure that the Wagner soldiers, if they would go to Ukraine again, will be used as the cannon fodder at first. Putin doesn't need those rebels who lost their main commander. I have this information from the pro-Ukrainian channels. They say that the pro-Russian party won the elections in Slovakia and it could be the next Hungary for Ukraine. If we speak about the allies, we know that Slovakia supported Ukraine a lot before, even transferred some of the fighter jets, MiGs. But I'm very far away from the political situation in Slovakia, so I wouldn't comment on this topic. I wouldn't call this party pro-Russian or not. We'll see the next steps of Slovakia, whether it's willing to help democracy or not. But what we see that Viktor Orban is quite happy that Robert Fico won the parliamentary elections in Slovakia, so they could be friends. By the way, there were massive protests now in Poland. Almost 1 million of people went to the streets. They're protesting against the current government. Because of the Polish elections, politicians start to play the rude games as they do as usual. Ukraine is also involved into this because there are many of the Ukrainian citizens now in Poland as refugees. Plus, the war in Ukraine is still #1 topic. Here we have the grain problems as well. So I continue to read many of the sayings from the Prime Minister Morawiecki, for example, who says that Ukraine should be grateful, that President Zelensky should apologize. So now they're playing this division card, which is not good. So hopefully after the elections, everything will be calmed down. By the way, we should expect the same story in the United States of America, especially next year, the election year. It will go absolutely mad. The brutal, dirty politician game from opponents may ruin something, but for the short-term perspective, I'm sure that the United States will support Ukraine constantly. Britain will deploy the Typhoon fighters in Poland, the UK Minister of Defense says. Just yesterday he said about the instructors in Ukraine, so today about the airplanes in Poland? We'll see. Maybe tomorrow Rishi Sunak will come out disapproving this idea. Well, after all, I think this is the truthful information as it was with instructors for Ukrainian army. My friends, don't forget to press the like to this video, and also if you want to support my channel, you may do it by checking the links in the video description just below. Special thanks for my Patreon supporters and the sponsors of my channel. Guys, you are awesome. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.